there with a gun in his head, and when he fell down, again, hurt his ankle very badly, but he was making the calls. But what happened is the firing took place very soon. So what they think is that this guy ran to his site, which he had all planned out with the gun. He ran to the site and he started shooting fast, and maybe that's why he sort of missed. I mean, you know, he got me, but it could have been a much bigger problem.
But he totally would have hit if you hadn't turned your head. So, like, you know, there was
keep tapping the screen.
It was a very near thing.
It was a miracle. If I hadn't turned my head, I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly,
I would not. I would not.
He's talking to me from another realm.
Yeah, that's right. We'd be talking from a different place. But
thanks for the
it was a very terrible experience. The Butler Hospital, they did such a great job. The doctors were so good. Everybody was so good. There was a mistake if somebody knew, because people were hearing. You know, there was just a bad feeling that somebody was around. You know that story in Aspen. And if somebody could have said, because they've oftentimes said, you know, like there'd be a lightning storm or something. Because I've done, I think, over 300. I think I did a lot more than that, but we did a lot. And oftentimes they'll say, "Sir, could you wait 10 minutes, please? Sir, could you wait 20 minutes? There's a storm overhead or lightning or something," right? And that happens often. And this would have been a perfect time for that to have happened, but it didn't get coordinated. That was the problem.
Well, it was heat of fire, and you know, like what I found admirable there was that you can't fake bravery under such circumstances. The courage is instinctual or it is not. It's not a rehearsed action, and so I just want to say that I think a lot of people admire your courage under fire there. And so
thank you very much. I appreciate it. I didn't think of it. I just wanted to get up, and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know. You know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me, and very bravely. But I wanted to get up. I said, I want to get up, and they wanted. You know, they have everything there. They wanted a stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else because it was such a lot of blood. And they were sure that I was hit someplace else. And they were saying, "Sir, you were hit more than the ear." I said, "Nope, I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up." And so I got up. And the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was so many people. And you could see they were confused. They didn't know what to think. And I wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very important for me to let them know that. And they went wild. You've seen the after. They didn't go wild when I got up because they didn't know, was I alive? You really couldn't tell. When I stood up before the fist in the air, they didn't know if I was alive. Nobody did. And when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and thrilled, and the place went crazy. It was pretty amazing. It was a terrible thing, but it was
incredibly moving. Well, and I mean, speaking of the sort of slide that got you to turn that saved your life, really, which was the illegal immigration slide. Maybe this is worth talking about that.
It was
that slide saved
You're right.
your life.
No, the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but I had to be at the exact angle.
I mean, that's a great one. Saved by illegal immigration.
You know, the incredible thing, though, when you talk about the odds, you had to be exactly at that angle. But the incredible thing is that the chart, I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment. It's always on my left, never my right, and it's always at the end of the speech. So
You just can't hear it over there. You got to turn it up.
it's at the beginning, not the end.
Not the left.
And even the people that put it up, they weren't prepared.
And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came whizzing by, hitting my ear. So it was amazing. But when you think of the odds of that, and you know that normally you wouldn't use it. Normally I wouldn't have the thing, and then it would have been a very different story. It's very much. I say an act of God. It's a miracle that it happened, and I'm honored by it. I'm honored by it.
Well, what were you about to say about illegal immigration before you were rudely interrupted?
Well, I was going to say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to Butler, and we're going to go back in October. We're all set up, and the people are fantastic in Butler. It's a great area. These are incredible people. Like the three that, in the case of Corey killed, and the other two, the families I got to know them a little bit, and the families are great. But we're going back to Butler, and I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying, prior to being so horribly interrupted, but
yeah, so rudely interrupted by an assassination attempt.
But the chart.
Some people have no manners.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that in my last week we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. Week we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. It was at the lowest. You've seen the chart. It's become quite a famous chart.
Yeah.
But that was the lowest point ever recorded. It was a really, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala and Joe. You see what happened. They just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good. Guys like Tom Holman and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. These are all people that they've been on television. It says the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks. Catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had things where many people come in there, they have contagious diseases. We had everything passed. If you have a contagious disease, I'm sorry, but we cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting literally records, and all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes.
Sure.
And in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that. But there were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart was very important for a lot of reasons.
Well, would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, but we also need to shut down illegal immigration, and especially unvetted illegal immigration, because and that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that absolutely represent your position?
I say it very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be checked.
Yeah.
Because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible. No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago. And by the way, they had just the opposite. They had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. They have a policy. They had a policy that they were really going to go after you, and were really harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible. And I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake. Now they're also saying they did a good job in the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear 12 million. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country, many coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. They're coming from all over the world. You look at, it's so sad, October 7th, because it should have never happened. Yeah. It's so sad when you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a defective government. These are defective people, and they're not people that should be running it. But where you see it the best is the border, because you have millions of people coming in a month, and then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5 years, and by the way, they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they won't do anything. It's all talk. She's incompetent and he's incompetent, and frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is, and that's saying something because he's not too good.
Yeah, no, I think it is essential to have a secure border. I mean, you're really not a country unless you have a secure border, and
secure elections.
you know, absolutely secure elections, and so it's just essential to have a real border, or we can't function as a country, and our services, our essential services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities. As we were talking about earlier, I think having a legal immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well, and speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant, I think like one way to think of it is, who do you want on your team? Who do you want on Team America? And I think we want to just say, okay, we want to let in people who are gonna, be great contributors to our society and to our economy, and and who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually, I'd say like probably most of the illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion. But some are not, and you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's, if somebody's like, has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here. Because we're in such a target-rich environment. I mean, why aren't more people who have a career in, bad things coming here sooner? Because it's a piece of cake to go rob, houses in LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah.
So
it's right. I mean, what's happening with crime, and our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon, I hate to say, because it's such a downer to say it. I hate to say it. I hate it, but you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're allowing, allowing people from their jails. And if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. They're taking their drug dealers, they're taking, frankly, their prisoners, they're emptying out their prisons. They're taking their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and they're delivering them into.
But that's what Castro did.
Yeah, well, they did on a much smaller scale. It was a much smaller scale. But this is a massive scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening: crime all over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. This is migrant crime. This is crime that's going to be.
Yeah.
And I saw it today in New York, where somebody was knifed, where they raped the girlfriend of a man that stood there watching in New York in one of the shelters, and started pulling out the knives, and bad things happened today. But this is happening every day. These are rough people. These are people that are in jail for murder and all sorts of things, and they're releasing them into our country, and they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
Yeah.
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people. And it's horrible what they're doing. And she's in charge of it because, now she's trying to say she had nothing to do with it. And she's such a liar because she was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar. And she never even went there. She went to one location which had nothing to do with where the problem is. She went in and out because she was getting a lot of pressure. Had nothing to do with the problem is. But she was the border czar, and people can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that she wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was totally in charge. she could have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known what happened. You could shut the border down, he wouldn't even know the difference. But the fact is that she was border czar. But if you don't have to call her that, the fact is you could just call her. She was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst ever.
It's simply not working.
No, it's horrible.
Whether it's a question of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So because you see things, you're like, is it real? So I went to the border at Eagle Pass, and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like, okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like just live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey, is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border, and I have to say, these people that I saw did not look friendly.
These are
people
people
can look at my video and say, hey, these people look friendly. I don't look super friendly. So
these are people that Elon would not be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough people coming across. And I know rough people. And these are people that we don't want in our country. And, the caravans are coming in, and they're putting, and who's doing this is the heads of the countries. And you would be doing it, and so would I. And everyone would say, oh, what a terrible thing to say. The fact is, it's brilliant for them because they're taking all of their bad people, really bad people. And I hate to say this, the reason the number is much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them. But these are people that are non-productive. They are just non-productive. I mean, for whatever reason. They're not workers, or they don't want to work, or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans, in many cases. And they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are really brutal people. And
it's like almost no one was from Mexico.
No, Mexico left.
It's just the border. It's just the border with Mexico, but the people coming in, it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything.
We're already overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York, and I love that place, and what they're doing to it is horrible. What they're doing to it, and all the courts do is they try and focus on Trump. Okay, then let's focus on Trump, who did none. What's happened is unbelievable. You have from Africa, from the Congo, they're coming from the Congo, and 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they drop them. They take them out of jails, which is very expensive, to maintain the jails. So they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out of jails, prisons. They take them out, and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, don't ever come back, or you're going to be executed. And they don't want to come back, and they won't come back.
Sure.
But they're coming from Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South America. They're coming from everywhere. And there are a lot of really bad ones.
It's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb everyone from Earth, or even a few percent of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible. So,
well, Elon, we're going to have, to finish this up, we're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice.
Sometimes close is too close for comfort. That is
80%. And you would be the same.
Yeah, it was a commercial.
I'll tell you what, Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% put into the United States. The same with other countries. Some are at 30%, some are at 50%. They're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of it? And they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony candidate. Don't forget, I beat Biden. He failed in the debate miserably, and some people said, "Oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he did so badly," or "I did well in the debate." The first night they said, "Wow." One of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated, and I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this. We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a different.
Yeah.
Look, she hasn't done an interview since this whole scam started. And say what you want. This was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice way or we can do it the hard way.
Yeah, they just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him. You know?
Oh, what they did with this guy, and I'm no fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine, and we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it.
Well,
and we wouldn't have had Afghanistan. But we think of it, you take a few of those events away, and we have a different world. We would also have inflation was caused by oil.
Yeah, I think you're making an excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are thinking about invading or doing bad things, when they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do, and do they fear the American president, or is there someone they do not respect and do not fear? And I think they would rightfully be. I mean, look at the footage of the assassination. They're like, okay, President Trump is like, don't mess with me. I mean, that's like, whereas I think people are not going to be, and they obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That if the American president is someone that, like, evil dictators are scared of, that makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Shifty Schiff, some just bad people, just sick people, frankly. I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But, they put our country in danger with that stuff, too. They actually, when they make up stories,
Adam
you have
Shifty
to
Schiff,
fight
he
your
said.
way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eyes. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it down. Biden came, and then they say,
I don't understand
I
either.
Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No.
But some people do believe that they should.
I hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his pipeline.
It's kind of strange.
The biggest pipeline.
Should they
were
vote?
looking at that to fund, and this pathetic president gets in there, and the first thing he did, one of the early things he did, is he shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers. Shuts it down. That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow.
Yeah.
I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah.
He shuts that down, and he approves the Russian pipeline.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's inconsistent. Certainly, but I mean, I think it's just worth emphasizing, to listeners the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and how much that matters to global security. Because there's some real tough characters out there, and if they don't think the American president is tough, they will do what they want to do.
I know every one of
and
them.
that puts the whole world in danger.
Elon, I know every one of them, and I know them well. I know Putin,
Yeah.
I know President Xi, I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people say, oh, this is terrible. He said, I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough, they're smart, they're vicious, and they're going to protect their country, whether they love their country. They probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these are tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even believe it. They can't believe this happened. All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. You know, when I was there, and I say it with respect, because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll pass. They didn't buy oil. Other countries likewise.
Sure.
If you want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it was amazing. In fact, there were articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it. 4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where when I said don't buy oil, they didn't buy oil. But they had no money, and Israel would have never been attacked. Zero chance. And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. And you know, it's the last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. You know, getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Kim Jong-un. When I met with President Obama just before entering, you know, it's a sort of a ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea. I had that problem worked out very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with Rocket Man and, you know, all the different things.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I got a call.
Those were some epic tweets, by the way.
Yeah, they were epic everything. He said that he has a red button on his desk. I said, I have a red button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger and my red button works. And then I called him Little Rocket Man of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line. All of a sudden I got a call from him. And they said they want to meet. They want to meet me. And we met, as you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam. And I got along with him great. We were in no danger. But President Obama thought we were going to end up in a war, a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's got a lot of nuclear stuff.
Exactly.
He's got plenty of nuclear. He can do plenty of damage. So.
Yes, I mean, it's because, you know, I mean, people like Kim Jong-un, they respond to strength, not weakness.
Well,
he and I had a good relationship.
Remember I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before. I walked onto I wouldn't say, let's bring up Secret Service again. I wouldn't say they were thrilled when I did that. I walked onto his land and it was an amazing period. But we were not in danger with him because of me. You know, I always say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government and people that are, and controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are not in danger from those countries because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden, and Bush to a certain extent, in all fairness, forced Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, you know, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat. You know, the biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we have 5 countries now that have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. You know, Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything the opposite. Everything the opposite.
Three-time Grammy-nominated Joe Bonamassa, the Blues Deluxe Tour live. This
is that hey, look, just in the two armies, you lost 500,000 people, and Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw the article recently, and you don't hear the true story, but if you think about it, Russia's gone. You know, Russia defeated Germany with us. And they defeated Napoleon. You know, they've been around a long time. They're a big fighting force. And it's very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight. And we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that. And a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had a man that actually made it. It made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from his stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you, it can lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in World War III right now for no reason whatsoever.
Right. I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III. And it's just, when looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity. And, it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States and other countries.
And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to build an Iron Dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the best Iron Dome in the world. We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection, because it just takes one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an Iron Dome? Israel has one. Some other places have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an Iron Dome. But with all of that being said, to me that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that they can't buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy groceries. The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this stupid administration allowed this to happen, and it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot, and we discussed the border at great length. It's nice to have a forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, do you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on you.
No, they could not.
So they don't need Elon. They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's pretty sad when you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers. It's pretty sad.
Absolutely.
But the big thing now is the economy, Elon. And as much as I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need. Because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But
I got like 7%
the thing that they
charge.
really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation. The inflation, it doesn't matter what you make. The inflation has eaten you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing that's happening. And we'll end that
Well, I
quickly.
think a lot of, a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply. And if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services, that's inflation. So really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not sensible?
Right.
Thank you.
And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit roughly every 100 days.
That's right.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceeded the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion.
It's interest.
And it keeps
I
growing.
rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military, did a great job on it, which was so important.
Probably
we had
gonna end
jets,
up
we had
ending it
fighters
anyway.
that were,
I think I'm gonna
and
end up
bombers that were
ending it
70
anyway
years old.
because
And
it's
we did a great job in that. Then we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them
Can't get there.
85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers
Yeah.
of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing
that might
days
work
in
right
the
there.
history of our
I
country.
wonder if that works.
But if you think about, let's go back to
It might.
the economy. We have to bring energy
Yeah.
prices down.
Right.
Energy started at the price of gasoline. Now your cars don't require too much gasoline, so you have a good, and you do make a great product. I have to say, I have to be honest with you.
Thank
That
you.
doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they want, the day after they get into office,
Could you turn that on?
we're gonna,
please?
this country will go out of business.
Thank you.
Because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable. Wind and different things. You're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So we're going to have to build a lot of energy if our country will be competitive with China, because that's our primary competitor for this, on the AI. You're going to need a lot of electricity. You're going to need tremendous electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
Sure. Well, just going back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government overspending. Right. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government spending and have perhaps like a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible and so that the country lives within its means, just like a person.
The waste is incredible, and nobody negotiates prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I went through it, like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign in General was, "Sir, would you please sign this document?" And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s. And the price was $5.7 billion for two planes. Now they're highly sophisticated. They're even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. They're I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway, but it's 5.7.
That's a crazy
number. It's a crazy number. But I said, I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved for it. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, you know, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plan. And you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other items.
Multiply it by
Yeah, the
zillion,
numbers are
and yeah.
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money is spent in a good way. And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love
if
it.
it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But you know, if you look at Argentina,
Well, I'd be happy to help
by the way,
out.
congratulations.
Yeah.
I just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But
Yeah.
congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. You know, the new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big, you know, he's great. And
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan, you know that. He ran on MAGA. And he took it to an extreme, too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought everything. But he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. You know, they had like 2,000%.
Exactly.
They had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to have that pretty soon. I think we have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They don't include a lot of the items that should be included, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money.
Yeah.